Well, folks, we've praised Digital Circus, we've theorized about Digital Circus, and now it's time to criticize Digital Circus. I know ADC has cemented itself as the internet's golden girl for the time being, and I love it to bits, but hey, no show is exempt from criticism. Even the adventures of hallucinogenic half-pint Harley Quinn here. So for this video, I am officially opening up the Hot Take Bakery and checking out what my fans' most common gripes with the pilot are. But instead of just saying whether I agree or disagree, I shall rate your takes with both a heat and a taste score. Heat indicates how controversial I think the take is, and taste will be how much I personally agree with it. Let's see if any of y'all can get a perfect double 10 this time around. I've got timestamps in the description if there's a particular take you want to see, and of course, let's all be adults in the comments. Don't go harassing someone for their opinion over a freaking indie cartoon, okay? You're better than that, I know you are. Alright, I'm craving some spicy perspectives, serve them up! Our first course shall consist of general show critiques. This could be anything from the animation to the story to the tone. A nice broad spread of opinions to start the meal. First up, we got Libby Brockman Knight 1284, who says, "The tent is too distracting and makes it hard to pay attention to the characters in some shots." Yeah, I can understand that. The backgrounds in the tent are often busy with brightly colored bits and pieces like dice, blocks, bounce houses, and sky circles? And when put against the main cast, who also have a lot of vibrant hues and multiple parts, there isn't really a lot of contrast to make the characters stand out. I kept up with the action just fine and personally really like the scenery, but I can understand if other people can't. I would argue though that the super busy backgrounds juxtapose really well against scenes like the exit offices, giving you a very out-of-world experience when you go from something so bright, colorful, and loud to something so drab, simplistic, and gray. It adds to the creepy mood they were going for by showing you something so drastically different from what you were used to that it kind of feels unsettling. So in that case, I would say the busier the atmosphere, the greater the difference when they try to freak you out. Either way, I can still agree with you on this point to an extent, so I'll give you a 6 for heat and a 7 for taste. Speaking of the office scene, we've got Hammer Ben 4640 who says, "Pomni going through the generic office corridors was unnecessary and disrupted the pacing." Ooh, that's a spicy meatball! And one that I'm gonna ask the waiters to take back, cause I sadly don't agree with this at all. I think the office scene was entirely necessary. It was a payoff for a mysterious plot point that was established earlier. It shows Pomni that there really is no easy way out of the situation and she's just gonna have to accept that. It makes for a great display of the show's unsettling nature and top-notch voice acting with our protag's mental breakdown, and it highlights Pomni's jealous every person for themselves tendencies that damaged her relationship with Ragatha, setting up both a character flaw to overcome and maybe a future tender moment between the two girls. As for the pacing, I think that was handled fine too. They cut at just the right times between the Queen conflict and the office conflict to the point where neither overstayed their welcome. Heck, the fact that we cut away at all implies that Pomni was actually going through more doors than we see on screen, which makes her ever-growing insanity all the more believable. I give you a lot of credit for being bold, my friend, but I can't say I'm with you on this one. I'll give you a 9 for heat, but sadly only a 2 for taste. I appreciate the comment though, thank you. This next one comes in many different flavors, but they all essentially say the same thing. The story/premise is pretty generic. To an extent, I guess? I mean, the story was definitely one of the weaker aspects of the pilot, with the highlights being the insane animation and cute character interactions. And the concept of people getting stuck inside the video games? Oh yeah, that's so overdone it might as well be a steak from Applebee's. But certain spices like the pre-2000s uncanny edutainment aesthetic, the unique mystery surrounding the computer and who it belonged to, the unhinged humor, the slightly meta-narrative, I think it all manages to breathe some new life into an otherwise tired genre. And hey, considering the pilot is just meant to be a proof of concept more than anything else, I'm actually fine with the narrative being one of the weaker aspects on display. Overall, I definitely think you guys have a valid point. And while I do technically agree with you, it doesn't ruin the experience much for me. So I'll give you guys an 8 for heat and a 7 for taste. Good stuffs all around. Alright, time for more subjective sweets. Some of you guys are saying that the pilot wasn't funny at all. And sadly, you won't be able to strong-arm me on this one because I think this shit is hilarious. The pilot and its surrounding material was basically custom-made for my sense of humor. Like the moments when the character models just bugged out and went all over the place, and sometimes they would play the sound when they glitched out. I cracked up at that. You guys need to understand that I was Gmod trash back in the day. I thought stuff like Gmod Idiot Box and especially Kitty0706 were the funniest things I saw when I first watched them. So seeing gags like this just really tickled me. You also had sudden dark turns in the dialogue, perfectly cut screams, super expressive and on-point line deliveries, like that one Caine line everybody keeps quoting. What was it again?
Yo Paris! Paris! Yo Paris! Yo sight! Yo sus! Yo us! Yo...
Yeah, something like that. Heck, the freaking Wacky Watch ad that you guys keep asking me to talk about, it's literally just a YouTube poop. Like, come on, I can't be mad at something like that. Some of the moments are a little awkward and try-hard random, so I'm not saying you're 100% wrong. I'm just saying that most of these jokes are right up my alley, so I'm gonna be pretty biased here. I'll give you a 7 for heat and like a 3 for taste. I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying I don't agree. Thanks for the comment though. Now here's an interesting one. ZillyCat8534 states that they're glad that the horror elements are more in the background and the comedy is more pronounced, making it feel like less of a mascot horror and more of its own unique project with mascot horror adjacent features. Now this one I completely agree with. Unlike you, Zilly, I'm actually kinda sick of mascot horror. I mean, how many times can we really take a nostalgic, slightly unnerving childhood concept and flip it on its head? It gets old after a while. The internet needs to get a new hobby. But I think that's why I like the Digital Circus so much. It's much less horror forward and focuses more on the lighthearted entertainment value and the characters actually interacting and endearing themselves to us. It's less about something once cute and charming now being scary, and more about something still being cute and charming right now with slightly scary undertones. And of course you've still got the simplistically designed and yet still standout characters with defined personalities that fans could easily build on in comedic, dramatic, wholesome, or just straight up weird ways. This take right here is just my style. I'll give it an 8 for heat and a 9 for taste. Well done. Cat Lover 2 is laying us down with the hot stuff right away. Everyone is just a toy.
You got a friend.
Ooh, here's an interesting one. This Man of Monkey here says that this pilot has no series potential. He basically says that he has no idea where the show could go from here. Pomni just accepting her fate and going along with things would be boring, Pomni constantly trying to look for an exit would be repetitive, and Pomni trying to unravel the secrets of the previously abstracted folks wouldn't really develop the characters, since all we'd be doing is looking into the past. Here's the way I see it. There will be some formulaic elements to the show. I'm sure Caine will send them off on all manner of quests, which makes sense, since that's what the game programmed him to do, keep them constantly entertained. And while those will be fun for wacky shenanigans, the real heart of the show will come from the character interactions that occur before and after. Maybe something occurred during the quest that reveals an aspect of their personality or backstory, and bit by bit we'll be able to piece together what kind of person they were, and possibly still are, on the other side of the screen. All the while, Pomni wouldn't straight up accept her new fate, but at least show more care towards these real people who can actually suffer and feel pain, while keeping one eye open for potential ways to get them all out. Learning from her little selfish blunder in the pilot, and also learning about what exactly makes this game tick. I do think there will be some repetitive bits throughout the series, but if they focus mostly on the game's untapped mysteries and the pre-existing characters working off each other, I think there's plenty of material for a series here. So I gotta disagree with you there. 9 for heat, but only 4 for taste. Sorry, man. Now, PME7311 brings up a very interesting point, saying that the character designs are both creative and uncreative at the same time. This builds on my point from before when I called the designs simplistic yet standout. I feel like this is one of the biggest must-haves for a mascot horror-esque project, creating characters that are different from one another, but not in overly detailed ways. Remember that these characters are meant to be based on kids' media, and kids' characters are usually designed with distinct yet simple to understand shapes and colors. Characters that are easy to visualize, easy to draw, and just easy to comprehend in general. Not to mention being eldritch gods of the silhouette test. Ironically, when you make them black, they pass with flying colors. And Digital Circus's cast follows all of these rules to a T, making for a septet of faces that have already won the internet over. And hey, if my theory about their designs being based on their personal traumas is correct, their looks might be telling us a lot with a little. Excellent point, and I fully agree. Though I'm sure most of the internet will as well. So I'll say 5 for heat, but 9 for taste. Very well said. Luis Orduna3899, who comments on pretty much all of my stuff, thanks by the way dude, says that an aspect of the show that doesn't get nearly enough love is actually the soundtrack. And I could not agree more. While it does have a few bare basic tracks like some of the music in the first half, the unmatched bangerness of tunes like the orchestral ending track are more than worthy of respect. Plus the main theme is an earworm of biblical proportions that still takes up residence in my head to this day. He pays his rent on time though, so no complaints there. I wouldn't say that this take is particularly hot since they did upload the soundtrack online and it's got more views than I get in a year, but hey, compared to stuff like the animation and the humor, it's definitely one of the more underappreciated bits of the show, so I'll give you that much. I'll also give you a 4 for heat and a 9 for taste. Nice work. Rosie Kind Bunny has a hot take that was kinda confusing at first. They said that the show doesn't need relationships and it will only hinder the story. I'm going to assume you're talking about romantic relationships since a lot of people say that shipping these characters so early is getting a little out of hand. Heck, Master of Machines straight up said it in my comments. Personally, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with shipping these characters since it's all meant to be in good fun. Nothing wrong with the fandom having a little fun. I do it all the time. Ignore that. As far as romance in the show, I'm cool with it as long as it doesn't overtake everything. I've sailed across the animation discussion ocean in my ragged little dinghy many times, and let me tell you, ships do take up a lot of space when fans start gabbing. And sometimes to appease fans, shows put a lot more emphasis on it than necessary, ultimately sinking the whole operation. But it doesn't have to be that way. Just make a relationship an aspect of a character's growth instead of their whole reason for existing, and make it a small part of the story instead of the entire focus, and you should be good to go. I don't see any romantic chemistry between the characters just yet, but if it does come up, I just hope they do it right. Considering how ship-happy the internet is, I'll give you a 10 for heat and a 7 for taste. The hottest piece in the pan so far. Ooh, next up we've got a theory-based hot take from Andreas7563. He says that the pilot is drenched in way too much theory bait, essentially presenting blatant unanswered questions front and center for people to make predictions about, instead of allowing the more diligent watchers to pick up on subtle little details and form unique conclusions based on that. As a part-time theorist myself, I wholeheartedly agree with you, dude. There is nothing more satisfying than picking up on subtle details people might have missed and applying reason to them based on what we already know. Heck, my Caine and Pomni theories I made a while back did just that. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the way that ADC presents its mysteries, but it definitely gave off the vibe of, hey, look at this unanswered question, what could it mean? Start jotting down ideas in your theory journals, you kids, or something like that. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on this one. I'm gonna give you the old double 8 for both heat and taste. Nicely said. Some of you said that the pacing is way too fast. I agree. 3 for heat, 9 for taste. Next up, it wouldn't be a hot takes video if we didn't talk about our favorite double-edged dagger on the Express to the West. The old train of hype. A lot of you had choice words for the hype surrounding this pilot and its inevitable future series. Some saying that it's getting way too much hype and that any show getting too popular too fast will inevitably kill it, and some people are arguing the complete and total opposite. Look, I'm sure that the sheer magnitude of this show's popularity caught pretty much everybody off guard. Heck, by the time this goes up, I'm sure that the pilot will have amassed 100 million views. I even had this nice frame custom made for the screenshot to prove I was right.
You are a winner!
But do I think the show is overhyped? I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that a lot of people are calling it the greatest indie animated thing ever made, and... okay, yeah, that's definitely taking things too far. At best, it's a solid proof of concept, giving us a taste of what's sure to be an excellent series in the future. And you can't really give it that kind of achievement when they haven't even started playing the game yet. Like, at least wait for episode 1, my guys, and then you can heap as much praise on top as you want, given it's good, which I'm sure it will be. And no, in the sense that, well, I'm just glad that something independently animated with a team that's in it for the art and not for the money is making these kinds of rounds. Even if the circus isn't your thing, the fact that this pilot proves that there's a non-Yupal digit audience for original non-studio content is really inspiring to see. This was the same kind of feeling of pure joy I had when Has-Been's pilot blew up. And I'm sure that feeling will keep coming back in bursts when even more internet gems inevitably start popping up and hitting similar numbers. As for the idea of hype possibly killing the project, well, like I said before, there are inevitably going to be some people that are disappointed when the second episode comes out, like maybe it doesn't line up with their unique headcanons, or maybe they're disappointed that there isn't as much insanity, energy, or polish as the show's selling pilot, but there are definitely going to be folks like me that'll understand if certain aspects are different from the initial pitch, and will just judge it for what it is. So I think that saying that hype will kill the project might seem a little bit harsh. A few flesh wounds maybe, but straight up manslaughter? Not an RPG Circus server. Anyway, here are the scores for these tweets. A decent batch all around. Good job, guys. And lastly, there were a few people who brought up the idea that the Amazing Digital Circus isn't a scary concept at all, and in fact, they'd probably enjoy it more than anything. Fun games, happy faces, no need to eat, sleep, or seek medical help, and unique paraphernalia you could never witness IRL. Believe it or not, this was probably the most subjective topic out of any of these takes. In fact, I hosted a vote in my community tab where I asked people how they would react if they wound up in the circus, and 23,000 votes and hundreds of comments later, well, to say that the responses were insightful and diverse would be an understatement. Which is why I'm actually not going to answer this one. I'm going to leave it as the comment question for the vid. So tell me guys, what do you think of this hot take? Would you actually feel excited to be thrust into the circus of circuits? Or would you act more like Pomni and want to rip the top of your head off just to bail out? Leave your answer in the comments below, along with your thoughts on any of the other hot takes we've seen today. Anyway, while you do that, I'm gonna go wash up before the second course. Next time, we're gonna cover your character-specific hot takes. And let me tell you, there's nothing I'm looking forward to more. Except for literally every other thing. I'll be right back. Hey guys, it's time for the oh-so-special shout-out to my awesome Patreons, including Supercharged CEO of 9V, Hunter Matzer, Jeffrey Ritter, Anonymous Anomaly, Tigerfire20, Sarah Collins, Michael Wallace, Ian Pendleton, Kelly Dalton, JYoshi64, Angel of Speed, Beanie, William Robertson, and Whirlbinder. If you want to see what I do when I'm not making vids, I'll have links to everything you need in the description below. But for now, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all. I hope to see you all real soon.